Welcome to a day in my life as a research scientist. I start the day like most folk do, checking the emails that have come in over the weekend. I try really hard not to work on a weekend, but I know lots of people do. And of course, I spend some time planning out my week ahead. To start off today's lab day, I'm setting up something called a PCR, which is going to help me figure out if I have a specific type of virus in some samples. But as quite often happens, I have left something in the office, so I have to go all the way back downstairs to grab it and then come back up again. It forever blows my mind how expensive some reagents are, and they're such tiny tubes. So whilst I'm waiting for my PCR reagents to defrost on ice, I'm just checking out how another experiment is running. And as you can tell by my face, it's not going particularly magically. I have some issues with contamination on my fungal plates, and I need to figure out what I'm going to do about that. But at this period in time, I am kind of overwhelmed and I would say overworked. So I just don't really have time for things not to work first time in the lab. And if you've ever worked in a lab environment or a biological environment, you know things rarely work out first time. There's always some amount of problem solving. So it's quite a stressful period at work for me, just trying to fit in everything that I need to do. Now my reagents have defrosted and I've finished questioning my life choices because of some contaminated fungi. I am back to setting up my PCR. This should finish running at about lunchtime, which is perfect. It is time for a much needed coffee break, and while I'm doing that, I'm also doing some experimental planning, checking emails, inputting some data, and a colleague popped in for a little chat for a while. So now I've finished coffee, I'm heading back up into the lab. I need to set up another experiment, which I can't show you a lot of the setup for, but just trust me when I say it took me quite a long time to do, and that's what I'm doing here, or starting to do here anyway. We've just had a massive power cut. It's thundering and lightning outside and all the power's gone off, and I'm so glad that my PCR has run. Lots of things are alarming in the lab. Oh, I've got so much to do. I don't have time for this. So now the power's back on, and just before I go for lunch, I'm setting up a gel, which should help me figure out if the PCR that I ran earlier has worked successfully. Then I had lunch and gave myself 15 minutes to stare into the abyss before I went back to checking emails, and I'm clearly not super happy about some of them. Back in the lab, and it didn't work. I mean, the gel worked, but the PCR didn't, so that's cool. I can't quite remember what I was doing back in the office here, but probably problem solving what had just happened in the lab and figuring out what to do next. Probably also thinking a little bit about my career path. As you can probably tell, I'm not super happy in my job, so I'm just trying to figure out what I can do to make it better, where I go from here. So watch this space, I guess.